Hello, today's project is the recovering of this chair, which is going to be done in a striped fabric. So I'm going to have to measure up and see how much quantity of fabric will be needed. Bear in mind it's going to be a stripe, so there's going to be a lot more wastage, and you're going to have to centralize everything from the inside back to the seat to the arms, and inside arms and outside back. Everything has to be running in unison. So we will take measurements from top to bottom of the inside, back, etc. Write them down on a piece of paper and then work out our yardage. Well, that's the chair complete. We've now finished with the braid, the gimp, and it's turned out very well. See, everything's matching, all the stripes. Okay, thanks for watching. Okay, this is the fabric that we're going to use for the chair, and I've got my measurements written down. I've worked out my yardage in meters. So you just write down your measurements and what the name of them are here. Draw a plan of which way you're going to cut it out, the cutting bench. I'm getting 83 inches. Which equals around 2.1 meters. So for a little extra than that, I have 2.5 meters, which I'm going to start to cut, and I'm going to use the blue stripe as my centerpiece for the chair. So everything's going to have to run down in line in unison. Okay, the first thing that we're going to want to do here is get a straight line to start off with. So you have your straight edge, and use another straight edge to get your first straight line, because that's where you're going to be starting off from. Try and cut out your biggest pieces first, because you can fit some of your smaller pieces in the wastage of that. So I'm going to start off with my inside back and seat, and the outside back, I say, will be the largest piece of fabric. Okay, I've cut up my first two pieces of fabric, my inside back and my outside back. You're going to want to make sure, if there's a pile on it, your fabric, that the smooth will be running to the bottom, and there would be more like a rough which would run to the top, and this fabric doesn't particularly matter, but you still keep it running in unison. So you're going to mark your top of your fabric, and what that is, that's top and inside back. That'll mean if there's any shading, it will all shade the same way, and you have to remember to do this with each piece. Okay, now that I have all my pieces cut out and I've marked them at the back what they are, make sure if you're marking your fabric, it's going to be like in a tailor's chalk, and that it's not going to show through. And also, as I've cut each piece off, I put a line through so I don't double cut anything, and to make sure I have cut everything. So my next stage is going to be, I'm going to have to rip out this chair, which I'm going to have to rip out quite carefully, as I don't want to damage any pieces of the wood. So I'm going to start by taking off the cover. Okay, now that I've stripped down all the cover from this chair, now I've made a few marks on the center of the chair, as you can see here, which is going to be where the center of the stripe is, and I've also done that on the back, which means everything is going to be running straight and centralized. I'm going to miter the corners of the inside back, and I'm going to miter the corners of the seat here, so I'm going to fit them now. Okay, that's the seat tacked in place. The next thing, the inside back will be done the exact same way, only be starting at the top on that. Same thing, miter the corners, sew it up, and have the mark for your inside back, which will run down and be centralized to this. Each chair is different. Normally the first thing that you take off a chair when stripping it down will be the last thing to put on. So it's a reversal basically. With this chair, the next stage in this process is to do the inside arms here. So I'm going to carry on and do my inside arms, and after that I'm going to do my inside back. And again, everything has to be marked and kept central if you're doing it on a stripe, so everything matches and tallies up. Okay, as you can see, this is the final stage of this chair. All the stripes are matching up, the inside arms, seat and back, and the outside arms. So the only thing left to do with this chair now is to finish it with a piping, a stud strip, or a gimp. Will be what you prefer. Just be careful if you are doing a chair like this that when you're using a sharp knife, that you're always cutting away from yourself, and that you're not going to damage yourself, cut yourself, injure yourself, or damage the wood on the chair. So now we'll see what the customer would prefer to finish this chair in, and we'll finish the chair off then. This is just a handy tip if you want to measure out for gimp, because they normally sell it by the meter or the yard. So because we have lots of curves and turns in the chair, it'd be hard to get a pretty accurate measurement. So if we get a piece of string, it's hard for me to do here with one hand, and we go around everywhere the gimp's going to be, just use your piece of string to follow around, and then we can lay that down straight on the bench and measure the piece of string out, and that'll tell us the yardies that we're going to need for the gimp. Okay, so I've got the pieces of string that is used to measure around the chair. So all I'm doing now is laying it on the bench, and then I'm going to add that all up together, and then I'm going to add it up in inches, and then I'm going to divide it into meters. And for the total for this chair, I'm getting 8.7 meters of that I would need for gimp. So I'm going to get 9 meters of gimp. You have to allow yourself a little bit extra, because on the corners you have to turn it round so you're not left with a raw edge.